I believe we have our guy on. Let's bring in Q Myers, who just does it all out in Las Vegas, covering the Raiders. He's a program director and Raiders insider and host of multiple shows over at Las Vegas Sports Network. Q, how's it going, my friend?
Man, it's good. It's going good, man. I appreciate being on with you guys. Talk a little Jarrett Stidham and what he could do for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
let's start with Jarrett Stidham because we're finding out more information just how much Sean Payton really likes Jarrett Stidham and that Jarrett Stidham actually believes that he may have a better shot of playing in Denver behind Russell Wilson than he did with staying in Las Vegas with Jimmy Garoppolo and potentially a draft pick. Can you just take us through last year with Jarrett Stidham and with the Raiders? Obviously, they traded for him in the middle of the season, and then he comes and then not only starts 2 games at the end of the season, but they kick Derek Carr to the curb. Obviously not for him for the long term, but for him to become the starter at the end of the year. And then he comes out and balls against the 49ers. What was your impression of Stidham last year?
Well, it's funny. I actually go back with Jarrett Stidham a long ways when he was a kid at Stephenville High School back in
Wow.
Texas, right? When he was a big time recruit, and then Baylor flipped him from Texas Tech, and I covered Baylor at the time. So I mean, I really go back with Jarrett Stidham. Always knew he was going to be an NFL quarterback. Just didn't know what was going to happen. Then we see him get drafted by the Patriots, and that's when they had all the reports that he was going to be the heir apparent to Tom Brady. And I thought, Jarrett Stidham from Stephenville, Texas, is going to all of a sudden play Tom Brady. And so it was pretty funny, but because of injury, he really didn't get that opportunity to get a career start there in New England. And really, the Raiders traded for him during training camp. They brought him in during training camp and had him be the backup to Derek Carr and start to teach that Josh McDaniels offense to Derek Carr and the rest of the team. And so I kind of always felt like he had a role with the Raiders. I just didn't know what it was going to be. And then inevitably, when Derek Carr was sat down after that Christmas Eve game against the Steelers and they turned the sticks over to Jarrett Stidham, I thought, okay, now they're going to see what he's got, and they're going to finally be able to see him as a starter in the league. And you're right, he did really well that first game against the 49ers. I mean, what a tough task, right? You're going up against the best defense in the league, and it's your first career start. And he did well, but ultimately they lost the game. And then, of course, the second game that he played, the final game of the year against Kansas City, he did pretty good as well and lost that game. So it's funny. I thought that he was more valuable to the Raiders than any other team in the league. I just knew that there was no chance that any other team was going to sign him because, well, he knew Josh McDaniels' system for over 4 years. So why would he go somewhere else? So to see that Sean Payton made him a priority and signed him and gave him the kind of money that they did, where ultimately the Raiders weren't offering him that kind of coin, I thought, okay, obviously Sean Payton has seen something in him. And the thing about Stidham is what you've seen in him is he's a tough dude, right? He's a tough dude with a strong arm. Right? I mean, he's not perfect. He's only got 2 career starts under his belt. So, of course, he's going to still learn. But the guy is tough. He can make a bunch of different throws. He's been preparing to be an NFL quarterback since high school. So it's not like any moment's too big for him. And I think it's a really good pickup and really a big loss for the Raiders as far as I'm concerned.
Interesting. So around Vegas, are people really disappointed that Jarrett Stidham's gone? Was this a thing that appeared on the radar?
No, it was not on the radar at all. Again, I was telling anyone who would listen that, yeah, there might be other teams that are interested in him, but they won't be interested in him like that because, well, he knows the Raiders system and he's just a backup quarterback. But there was people that called my radio show daily that said, start Stidham, start Stiddy,
Really?
go ahead and roll with Stiddy, draft a rookie and let Stidham go ahead and get the start. We can roll with Stidham. Don't worry about Jimmy G. Don't worry about Aaron Rodgers. Don't worry about Tom Brady. Roll with Stidham. Like they were sold after two starts. And I kept saying, well, look, let's not be prisoners of the moment. He still lost the game, even though he did well. And on top of that, Devontae Adams talked highly about him after the first game. Like, no, I wasn't surprised that he went out there and balled out. That's what he does in practice. So I think the team really could appreciate the guy who Jarrett Stidham was. I could appreciate him from just a standpoint of the guy's been grinding his whole life to try to get where he's at. Again, I think it's a super shock. That was probably the biggest thing in free agency that shocked me was the fact that Stidham is no longer in Las Vegas and now is in Denver.
Wow, and one of the reasons, according to Peter King, is that Stidham believed he had a better chance of playing in Denver than in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Do you think he possesses the not just the physical traits, because you already touched on those, and he certainly has a very lively arm, but do you think he has what it takes to become a full-time starter in the NFL, and potentially, if things go astray with Russell Wilson, that he could be a long-term starting quarterback for the Broncos or a team in the NFL?
I think he can, and the only thing that I cautioned, Raider Nation when they were talking about let him get the start was I was like, hey, man, I mean, you're in Vegas. This team has to win immediately. I felt like there was a lot more pressure on whoever's going to be the quarterback, and now it's going to be Jimmy G to go out there and get some wins because, well, Las Vegas needs to win. There's just too many options in Vegas to do if you're fielding a team that's not very good. So I thought whoever came in had to be someone with a pretty big name. We'll see how it goes with Jimmy G, but with Stidham, and if in Denver it doesn't work out with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton sees something in him, I wouldn't be shocked at all. I mean, again, the guy's been in the league about 4 years. Now he's been in multiple systems and he's been with multiple coaches that I believe are really good offensive minds in Sean Payton and Josh McDaniels. I think that he has an opportunity. And again, you mentioned the physical traits, man. I mean, he's got the arm strength. He's a gritty guy. He's a guy that'll take a hit as the 49ers put a big time hit on him. He had blood in his mouth when he threw the touchdown pass to Devontae and just went over to the sideline and kind of laughed about it, right? I mean, it's just he's that kind of dude. I mean, he's been playing football his whole life, so there's a lot to like about Jarrett Stidham, and who knows what happens with Russell Wilson, but that could be the potential guy. It could be a potential heir apparent if things don't shake out well with Russ.
Did anybody ever push for Stidham to start before Carr got benched? Like during the season, was there any unrest there?
I think the fans were,
Okay.
because the fan base has been split on Derek Carr for it feels like his whole career. Like some love him, some hate him. They still talk about him now that he's gone. It's like, man, I don't know what they want. But at some point, I think some of the fan base is like, just get Stidham in there. He's Josh McDaniels' guy. He could run. That's the thing about Stidham that I do like is he'll keep plays alive with his legs, right? Where he's willing to do it, where Derek Carr wasn't willing to do it. And so that was something that was appealing to Raider Nation. They liked that fact that he would, even if it wasn't running, he would just move the pocket enough to allow a player to get open like Devontae did against San Francisco. I mean, if you haven't seen that highlight, that's a hell of a play that Devontae and Jarrett Stidham made. So you got to give him a lot of credit for that. That was probably one of his biggest highlights, in his short career so far. But really, man, I mean, just having that ability and the know-how to do it, kind of instincts and everything. I think that allows Jarrett Stidham to have an opportunity to be a starter in the NFL.
Q, I told my guys before we had you on that no one knows the Raiders more than you, and the fact that we just asked you 4 questions about a backup quarterback, I think you just proved it right there. But we are talking backups. I want to know about the starting quarterback for the Raiders. Did the Raiders, in your opinion, upgrade by going from Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo now?
The only way I would say it's an upgrade is the fact that he's just familiar with Josh McDaniels. And I think that Josh is going to be more comfortable with opening up the playbook for him because he knows what his expectations are, as opposed to what was going on with Derek. I don't think he fully trusted Derek. I don't know at what point of the season he kind of lost the faith in him, but I just felt like he wasn't fully committed to, well, I'm going to give him everything because he can handle it, where I think he feels like he could do that with Jimmy G. We all know the downfall. Jimmy G has a really good winning percentage, but we all know that it's all about injuries with him. If he could stay healthy, he could be a good quarterback. He doesn't have the arm that Derek Carr does, where he's going to hit a lot of deep balls, but he'll get the ball out of his hand quickly, get it to his receivers, let him get some yards after the catch. I mean, he can do all the right things. He said all the right things at the presser last week. I think he won over some of Raider Nation as well that were a little on the fence with him. And my whole big issue with him has only been about the injury history. It's just like, I mean, you don't get healthier the older you get. I mean, it's a reality of life, right? I mean, so that's the big concern. So I think, and that's another reason why I was shocked by Jarrett Stidham being gone, because I thought, well, if Jimmy G is going to be the starting quarterback, Jarrett Stidham really will probably have an opportunity to play because, well, we know Jimmy G gets hurt. But to, the point of Peter King when he was saying that Stidham thinks he can have a better chance to play in Denver, that to me makes me feel like that they rolled out the plan for him. Like, hey, Jarrett, this is what we're planning on doing. We're going to bring in Jimmy. We're probably going to go draft this guy. You might not be active on certain game days. So he probably did feel like, you know what, my best opportunity to possibly get on the field is somewhere else where I could be the primary backup. So that's what my gut feeling tells me. That's not any insider information. That's just kind of what I feel like is going on or what had happened.
The Broncos have been super active over the last couple weeks, signing a whole bunch of different players. I feel like I haven't heard all that much about the Raiders, though. There's obviously the Garoppolo move is the big one, but is there any unrest there because there haven't been many moves, or are people kind of happy with what's going on?
No. It's funny, man. There's been a lot of moves, but there have been a lot of moves that aren't going to catch your attention, right? I mean, it's Jimmy G and Jacoby Myers and everybody else, right? I mean, Mark Steps they brought in from the Eagles. There's a couple other guys that they brought in. Jordan Willis from the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, there's been a bunch of guys that they signed to one-year deals to help try to fill a few voids. I mean, O.J. Howard, he was great at Bama, but not so much in the league. I mean, there's been guys here and there that they've signed. They've actually brought in quite a few guys, but there's nothing that's going to all of a sudden take the headlines and say, oh, man, now that's a game changer. And that's what's got Raider Nation frustrated. They're so mad. They're like, what are they doing? So right now they don't know and they can't see what the vision is of Dave Ziegler and head coach Josh McDaniels. And, we're kind of riding the wave here on the radio station, just seeing how it all shakes out. But I think the Raiders, you'll see them do their heavy lifting in April when it comes time for the draft. I mean, they have 12 draft picks right now, starting with number 7 overall. I think that's where they're going to do the heavy lifting, a lot of it on defense, because the defense has been terrible for quite a while. It's Max Crosby and the rest of the cats. I mean, that's really what it's called. I mean, it's just it's just the reality of it. So I think that's where you'll see them really get the guys that have names is in the draft. You're not going to see them get them in free agency. So Raider Nation is not too happy, but again, it's March. So if you win March, you normally don't win September. So I'm not really worried about it right now.
Q, last one for you. Josh McDaniel, obviously a big name here when he goes to the Raiders last year. And then you just said Raiders fans not so happy about what's going on. Is that with Josh McDaniels? And what's the temperature check on McDaniel out there?
Well, I'll tell you, man, Raider Nation is not thrilled with him. They're not thrilled with Dave Ziegler. They're not thrilled with anyone that has any kind of New England Patriot ties, right? I mean, I have never seen a fan base so ready to dump their coach out so quick, fast, in a hurry. But Josh McDaniels, of course, with everything that went wrong in Denver and him coming over from New England, that's like a double whammy. Then, of course, the Raiders made the playoffs in 2021. They won 6 games in 2022. So, see, I told you, coach is terrible. They don't know what they're doing. The Patriots suck. The Patriot West. Nobody can do this outside of Bill Belichick. I mean, I've heard everything that I can hear from every fan about how terrible this coaching staff is and this front office is. And I'm still on the wait-and-see mode, right? I think Josh has to prove himself. I mean, you guys know very well what happened in Denver. It wasn't great, but it was a long time ago, so I'm not going to really hold it against them. But at the same time, I'll take an approach where, okay, you've got to prove yourself. You got to show that you can be a really good coach and not just a good offensive coordinator. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that that's fair, right? Dave Ziegler, I have a lot of confidence that he's going to get it right in the draft. He just seems like he's got his mind in the right spot and is good at talent evaluating. So that makes the draft for me exciting, just to see how 12 draft picks, how he works that into the magic during the 3 days in Kansas City. So that should be fun. But yeah, man, Raider Nation's ready to send Josh McDaniels cooking and on his way smoking out of Las Vegas a long time ago.
and look at that. We found some common ground between Broncos and Raiders fans. They both want Josh McDaniels gone. Q, really appreciate your time. You're the best, and anyone that wants to follow what's going on with the Raiders, there's no better guy than you. He's on Twitter at yourboyq254. Make sure to give him a follow. That's where I get all of my Raider news, especially playing them twice a year. You need that. So thank you so much, Q. You're the best.
Hey, appreciate you, man. You always come on my show. It's great to be able to return the favor and hop on your show. You guys are doing a great job. Keep it up.
Appreciate you, Q. Thank you so much. Man, I mean, good insight there on Jarrett Stidham. Really good insight.